Good evening, everybody, and welcome to what I know will be a terrific event tonight. I want to begin by, of course, welcoming our esteemed guest, my very dear friend, Muhtar Kent, the chairman and CEO of Coca-Cola. And I'll talk more about Muhtar in a moment or two. First, I want to say this event tonight is the Segal Lecture, which is named after Dr. Maurice Segal, who was a proud jumbo class of 1928 undergrad and then 1932 medical graduate. Very distinguished physician, and through his generosity and that of his family, we have this lecture tonight. So representing him tonight are members of his family, which would be Peter and Carol, who are here, and they are the sponsors of this lecture. And please join me in a round of applause for the Segal family. Thank you. I want to also mention that we have a couple of wonderful members of our board here at the Fletcher School, Jerry Blakely and his lovely wife Tinley, who are both here, and it's great to see you there. And I think another iconic businessman. It's great to have that community represented here, Jerry. And then lastly, I want to just acknowledge my boss. It's always great to see the president of Tufts University, President Tony Monaco. Thanks for coming out for the lecture tonight, sir. So why are we here? We're really here tonight to have a chance to listen to Muhtar Kent. And I think we all know Coca-Cola. Here would be a Coca-Cola product. I like to put it this way. Coca-Cola is the producer of 4 of the 5 beverages that dominate the non-alcoholic beverage market around the world. So I want you to raise your hand in the last couple of days if you've had either a Coke, a Diet Coke, a Fanta, a Sprite, a Minute Maid, a Powerade, a vitamin water, or a Dasani water. How many hands can I get for that? Okay, so I think that kind of tells us a lot about this extraordinary corporation, Coca-Cola, which has a market cap of $180 billion. It operates in 200 countries around the world, and it's generating about $45 billion in revenue. So it's an extraordinary and successful commercial enterprise. But what I really want to talk about tonight with Muhtar is the corporate social responsibility of this company. In that sense, we are going to be treated to a master class of why that matters and how one of the great brands in the world does good in the world. And that's really what I'd like to talk to my good friend Muhtar about. To tell you a little about him, he is someone who has gone from the very, very beginning, most entry-level job in Coca-Cola in 1978 in Turkey, where his family is originally from, and he has worked his way to the absolute top. That's hard to do, and there are very few people, I think, that can say they went into an organization at the lowest entry level and worked their way all the way to the top of in this case, an extraordinary commercial entity. Muhtar was actually born in the United States. He's a U.S. citizen, obviously, and but he is the son of a Turkish diplomat and has family roots both in Turkey and in Greece. I'm Greek-American. He and I have had many wonderful conversations about our part of the world, which I think have helped illuminate for me the relationships between Greece and Turkey. And I think, as you'll discover tonight, are really part of how he views the world. He is a graduate of the University of Hull in England. His master's degree is from New York City, from the Cass Business School at CUNY. And above all, I know Muhtar would say the thing he's proudest of is his family. His daughter is a proud jumbo, class of '07, and his son just graduated, I believe, from Columbia University. He is someone who is an inspiration not only to his family, but to so many people around the world. And he's my very good friend. Please join me in welcoming Muhtar Kent to the Tufts.
Thank you.
Please. Great. So, can we start by just tell us a little bit about how you became so successful at Coca-Cola? Because here you have 300 students who soon will enter the workforce. What were the keys that allowed you to move so successfully through the world?
Jim, first, thanks for that more than too kind introduction, and it's great to be back here at Tufts. I used to come up here a lot. I was living in Hong Kong when my daughter first started here at Tufts in the early 2000s, and I used to come here a lot, 2-3 times a year. So it's wonderful to be back here. It's actually amazing that there's no snow on the ground.
It is. It's going to be 50 degrees on Sunday here.
Yeah. And thanks for inviting me. Jim and I met each other almost, maybe not quite 10 years ago, but 7-8 years ago. We were both honored at the Atlantic Council event, and we became really good friends. And he was in his beautiful white uniform, Admiral uniform then, when he was honored, and I was there also at that event, and so it was great. And now we can be together here again in this great institution. I started on trucks at Coke, and I actually started in the United States, and I worked here in Needham on trucks. I worked in Lubbock, Texas. I worked in LA in California on trucks for about 8-9 months. I answered a New York Times ad, no internet those days, no connectivity, and I went down to Atlanta and joined the company, and as I said, started on trucks. And I think probably getting up at 4 a.m., wheeling pallets of Coke into trucks, getting on the truck, and then pulling out the product into stores and merchandising, and then going to the next store. And to this day, there isn't a week. I have my executive assistant here with me, Susan Gambardella. There isn't a week that passes where I will not go to a store. We were in Davos together, and we made store visits in between panels to see how our products are displayed and whether in the right condition, the right packages, facing in the right way, and to create impulse, because our business is an impulse business. And every time I go to a store, to this right now still, I learn something new, and it's actually where the dollar changes hands. 2 billion times every day, and that's where our products are sold cents at a time, or at most $1.50 a bottle or a can or a package. And it's if you lose your connection to what I call the point of impact, where that dollar changes hands, and you don't listen to people talking about what's going on there, then you lose touch. You can create the best communication campaign, the best advertising. You can create the best sustainability campaign. You can create the best connected, purposeful branding. But if you lose touch with where that dollar changes hands, you lose touch with how your business works. And I think that's how, whether or not I think that's part of the connection to success, if you like to call it success.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful explanation. And what I take away from that, and something that has worked for me over the years as well, is all the wonderful means of communication ought to be employed, the mass communication. But in the end, personal contact trumps everything. Walking, seeing, touching. And the impact, I would flip it a little bit and say the impact that you have as the CEO, this becomes known, and that sends a signal unto itself. Let me kind of shift the conversation to Coca-Cola itself, Muhtar. You're in 200 countries around the world. What leaps out at me is the global aspect to the company. Say a word about how you've structured the company in terms of command and control all around this world.
Well, one thing for certain, the more you go up, the less you can do. And that may sound dichotomous, counterintuitive, but that's the way it is. And so therefore you've got to rely on people, you've got to make sure that you have the right people and the right structure, the right organization. But the key is ensuring that you have the right people in place. And so we are in 207 markets around the world. 2 countries that we're not in are North Korea and Cuba. And essentially 1,000 plus factories, 1,004 factories, 770,000 wonderful associates around the world. And we, based on what we call the multiplier effect, every time a university has done one of those multiplier effects on Coca-Cola, it's about 1 to 10 in our supply chain. So about 7 to 8 million people, families are employed as a result of the enterprise. And it is one of the biggest, largest private employers in the world from that aspect. But the key is to make sure, regardless of your size, create the calculus, crack the calculus for growth. Growth, I think, is a really important word in today, as it was yesterday and will be tomorrow for everyone. For individuals, we all have to grow every single day by learning more. Companies, small or medium or large, have to grow. You can't stay where you are. You either decrease in size or you grow, and you have to be on the other side. Crack that calculus for growth, and then countries have to grow to provide a better life for their citizens. And so the way I see that is, and growing is one thing, but repeating growth is something completely different. Because how many Olympic gold medalists do you know that have won successive gold medals in 3 successive Olympic Games? It's just so rare. And repeating success is the key. And success, in a way, in simple terms for us in our world, is defined as making a promise into the future without a predetermined outcome. And you just have to keep committing yourself to that promise and making sure you set the conditions inside your enterprise to keep growing no matter what. And another reality of life, physics, I guess, is that when you go up, the air gets thinner. And so when you get big, it's harder to grow.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, when I became CEO back 7.5 years ago, we were selling 1.2 billion servings a day. Now we're selling 1.9 billion, on the way to 2 billion servings a day. And so the base gets bigger, and it's harder to grow from that base. But you just have to create the conditions to grow.
Indeed, and I think your excellent point kind of brings us to the global economy. One of the things, you and I were both at Davos last week, and we were discussing up in my office, one of the things I really noticed was a deep concern about Chinese growth. And the point you just made, as that economy has gotten bigger and bigger, it's just harder to impossible for it to grow at 10%, 12%, 14%. So now it's slowing down. But that really brings us to, I think the audience would love your assessment of the global economy and how it feels to you, both the Davos piece we discussed and with the visibility you have in 207 locations around the world. How are we doing?
Well, I said in Davos last week, I said my favorite emerging market in the world right now is called the United States of America. And
Get the joke.
and and I feel that way. And you know, what used to be darlings, Brazil and Russia, India. We all had great hopes that India under Modi is going to kind of jumpstart, and it can't. And so that's again because of various conditions inherent to India, related to infrastructure, related to
Bureaucracy.
the central government versus the provinces, and then China. Now China is still growing at 6% at this huge base.
Yeah.
So it's nothing to scorn about. I think we all need to take our hat off, and the transition is happening in China from an export-led growth to a services economy and a consumer economy. And so while this transition is taking place, the growth is still at around 6%, and the quality of the growth in China is getting better. It used to be not as good quality of growth in the past, which was based on cheap exports. And so I think we should be thankful. Africa is growing at 5.5%, 6%, the youngest continent in the world. And I'm very bullish about Africa. Small increments of improvement in governance in Africa are yielding exponentially positive results in GDP growth. So, in the past, if 100% of a cabinet was tainted, now 50% of a cabinet is tainted. It's a huge improvement, 50% improvement, and those kind of things are yielding positive results, very positive results. So, but it's very volatile. What used to be cycles no longer exists. 3 years, one way, the currency would go one way. 3 years, the other way. Commodities would go in cycles. Growth would go in cycles. Now it's all going in one direction, and so we have our challenges, huge challenges, but there's still, I believe, huge amounts of opportunity in the world. I think Europe has seen its worst day. I'm in that camp. Many still say that the worst is yet to come in Europe. I don't believe that. Spain has proven that it can happen, and therefore, hopefully, some of that will rub off to other countries in Europe. And so I'm a big believer, and we're in a great industry, an industry that is growing at 4 or 5% a year, which is the industry of non-alcoholic, ready-to-drink beverages. And so if you target sensible investments, but the key word is focus, we believe that there's still a lot of opportunity in the world.
Makes sense. And the other aspect that kind of rang true to me in Davos is a continued sense of discussion about the importance of sustainability. I know Coke's been very, very much engaged in this. You have personally. The company is noted for its work in corporate social responsibility. Talk a little about that, what this company's done.
And it emanates out of a couple of thoughts. So number one, it's no longer in the world, in the 21st century, enough to make good products that taste well, that are presented in the right way, that are available in the right manner, in the right retail occasions. You've got to go a step further, or a couple of steps further, and make sure that actually the character of the business actually meets the criteria of your consumers. You've also got to make sure that you create value for a portfolio of stakeholders, not just share owners, and couple all of that together. You just have to make sure that the brands that you market, you sell, you offer have a purpose, and that purpose has to be basically framed inside helping to create a better, more sustainable planet for the next generations. And then while you do all of that, you've got to focus. It cannot be just because you want to have a few good paragraphs in a corporate sustainability report or philanthropy. It's got to be embedded fully into the business, core of the business. And the framework we created was around 3 W's, water, woman, and well-being.
Okay.
And so you have to choose what you are not going to do when you're a large organization to be successful. And we chose those 3, and everything else that great ideas that come, we basically will leave them to others.
So can you say a word about each of those?
Sure. And well-being is one that we look at in a much more holistic manner. It's not just physical well-being, but also mental well-being and financial well-being. Okay. And then I'll just talk to each of them a little bit. On water, it makes a lot of sense, right? A company that uses a lot of water like us should make a commitment to become water neutral, which we did in 2010. And we said by 2020, which is a decade from when we started, we want to become water neutral. At that time, we were using about 350 billion liters of water to make our products.
Right.
What was inside our products and what we used to make the products.
Right.
And we used 3 methods. Technology helped us to reduce the water we use in our factories. Instead of rinsing our bottles, our cans with water, we started rinsing them with aseptic air, for example, through technology. That wasn't enough. We then recycled all the water that we didn't need for our beverages that we had to use, and we instead of putting it into the sewage, we would give back to the municipalities in the freshwater system. And then finally, the third piece was replenishment. And we created thousands of replenishment projects capturing rainwater and giving back to villages and communities. And it's all audited by PwC, which is not our actual auditor, so there's no conflict. And we did achieve water neutrality in 2015.
Wow.
Now, how does it connect to your business? Because, you know, in your AGM, share owners will say, well, so what? Why have you spent all this money doing this? Well, our cost of goods sold went down significantly because our water usage went down significantly because water is not free.
Yeah, it's a cost, sure.
And so when you can connect this kind of activity to your business, that's when it makes really
both idealistic and pragmatic.
Completely. So the full circle connected to the business. Now, so where do you go from now? Here, Coca-Cola, you've achieved water neutrality in 2015, 5 years ahead of your goal. The next step is to take it to our supply chain. All the mango growers that we work with, the peach growers, the apricot growers, the the citrus growers that we have, the millions of trees that we have under plantation, everything else that we use in our supply chain that is related to agriculture. Now we're going to want to go deep into that because 80% of the water used in the world actually is used in agriculture.
Yeah.
12% is in municipal, and about 8%, 9% is industry. That's how it breaks down, water usage in the world. 80% is essentially bad agricultural practices in the world. And so and the other benefit that emanates out of our activity is creating a much more sense of respect for water in the world. So raising awareness, because we're a communications business, because we talk in a different way about what we do, this helps create more respect and awareness and then respect for water, because that's essentially what we need in the world, create more respect for this resource that is critical to the future of the world. I mean, you know, the thing about the world is you can have all the money you want. You cannot eat money. You need food. Food equals power in the 21st century. To have food, you need water. To have water, you need respect for water. That's the way the algebra works.
I'd like to open it up to the audience for a few questions, if we can do so. Sure. And feel free to step up to the microphone if you would like to ask Muhtar Kent a question about his life and times and his experiences and what Coca-Cola is doing. And while someone gathers their courage to ask a question, oops, we actually have a taker here. Hello.
Hello.
Please say your name and where you're currently studying or working here in the Boston area, and then fire away.
So my name is Natalia. I'm part of the MIB program.
Okay, the MIB is our Masters of International Business. It's our business program here at the Fletcher School.
So I was curious about what you said of that now you have to have corporate social responsibility within the business. So I have two questions regarding that. The first one is, when did you perceive or know that Coca-Cola shifted their vision into having corporate social responsibility as part of their business instead of adjacent to their business? And what changes, and once that transition was given, what structural changes in the organization happened, and how you as a leader had to kind of change your priorities within the business?
Sure. Well, it happened about sort of 7-8 years ago, where we said it's great to see all this stuff in the reports, but it is a tangent to the business. It's a vertical as opposed on the side of the key focus areas, as opposed to being one of the focus areas. And so we just added, with portfolio, with profit, with partners, with people, we added a fifth P, which was planet. And we said it's now going to be completely embedded inside the business. And then it was finding the right framework, like the 3 Ws, which we could then actually really make work. And again, there isn't a single country in the world where our cost of sales did not come down as a result of the water reduction. Another one is this plant bottle. This bottle is partially made from waste, sugarcane molasses, which isn't even good enough to feed animals. It's just thrown away. So we took that and we said, can we actually blend this bottle with resin made from sugarcane waste? And now 30% of this bottle is made from sugarcane waste instead of 100% in the past being made from virgin PET. Now the cost of this bottle has come down. But it's also great because it saves huge amount of carbon as a result of not using 100% virgin. And now we're on track to actually launch in the future a 100% plant bottle that will use zero material, virgin material.
Yeah.
And the cost of that will come down even more. So there isn't a better, you see, you've got to ensure that you can embed what you're doing for the planet directly into a business benefit.
Right. As opposed to parking it on the side in a foundation or...
So that's where the opportunity, and by the way, this idea did not come to us from inside the Coca-Cola Company. We find in our company the best ideas are here, right here. Outside of the company. So we have these incubation centers around the world, one in Israel, one in India, one in Mexico, one in China, one in Tokyo. And in those areas we collaborate with, in technoparks with universities, because those ideas, if they were born in the company, they would be trampled on and they would die. So we keep them outside. And then when they flourish, they're big enough, we can bring them into the company.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Natalia. Sir.
My name is Nate. I'm a second-year MALD here at Fletcher. I wanted to know, with respect to all of these really great long-term projects that Coca-Cola has been doing, since your time as CEO, when you first started doing these, what was the experience like pitching the idea to shareholders who might have a little bit more of a short-term view of things and might be more concerned about the short-term cost of these things, and how you got them on board with that?
It was finding those sweet spots like the plant bottle, like the water initiative, where you could point directly to the calculus of also benefits to the business. Now we have projects that, studies that show how the stronger communities around through the women empowerment are helping our business too. How all those women retailers, so we have, in the world we have 25 million 25 million points of retail, Coca-Cola, and we visit them once a week. We have the largest, arguably the largest distribution system for any commercial enterprise in the world. Bigger than UPS, bigger than Federal Express, more vehicles. And of these 25 million points of retail, imagine if 5 million of them are actually motivated and loyal women retailers. Is that a benefit? There's a direct algebra there. And so when we point these kind of benefits, it actually is a pretty safe way the river flows. Now, that doesn't mean that new things don't get resistance. So, I was questioned when I invested in OneWeb. Why are you doing this? I mean, don't you have better things to do than invest in OneWeb? And what do you got to do with high-speed internet in towns and villages? Sure, but it's actually the level of understanding is getting better and better also with our stakeholders, including our share owners, because most of the share owners, they also have now similar agendas and similar goals to help the planet to become more sustainable, so they can actually play an important role or a meaningful role or a small role in their own capacity to transfer the planet to make sure that the planet is transferred in a good state to the next generation.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Nick. Please.
My name is Jay. I was a 2012 grad from Tufts. I work at a venture capital firm in Boston now. And I'm curious, Coca-Cola is one of the most valuable brands in the world. And for thousands of nonprofits, they would love to work with a brand like Coca-Cola. And I'm sure, all of these come in through different channels. I wonder if you could describe your process of, one, how you figure out nonprofits to connect to and how you evaluate all of those different opportunities and figure out what makes sense.
Most important thing we evaluate is what not to do. Because when you're large, you have to really focus on a few areas, and that was the framework we created. Water, women, and well-being. If they fit in those areas, perfect. If they don't, and so you'll say, well, how does OneWeb fit? Well, OneWeb fits because we want to make sure that all these women entrepreneurs have something, an additional product to sell that is good for their communities, which is connectivity.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is John. I liked what you were saying about growth and how growth is so important, especially, I think, internal growth as a leader. And I wanted to ask you about who's your most influential mentor and what did they teach you?
My most influential mentor was a man, late Don Keogh. He was an American of Irish origin who was, for many, many years, the president and chief operating officer of our business. I worked under him for many years, and then I actually, in 1997, left the Coca-Cola Company when Roberto Gozueta, the then chairman, passed away. 1 month later, I also left and became an entrepreneur and became a bottler and worked about 10 years outside of the company from 1997 to 2004, so eight and a half years. And even during that time, I would connect with him very frequently. He retired from the company in 1992, and he was one of my best friends and a great mentor, and again learned a great deal from him about the importance of being optimistic, about the importance of humility, To this day, I always carry my own bag, and I never eat alone because relationships are the most important, critical thing in the world. And all those things are great learnings that I also try to instill to all our young entrants into our business.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Greg. I work at a consulting firm in Boston, and I was wondering, could you talk about some of the different innovations and investments that you've made in research and development programs and how that's helped you grow globally, and then some of the challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis executing that strategy and continuing to grow?
Yeah, I mean, I think innovation, I've talked about it, packaging, you just heard about the plant bottle. We're one of the largest owners of refrigerated equipment in the world. We own more than 20 million pieces of refrigeration in the world because our products taste better when they're cold. And now all our refrigerated equipment that's coming on board is HFC free. That helps prevents the ozone layer from being depleted. So equipment, refrigeration, and then product innovation all the time. For 100 years, we were a one-product company. Last 28 years, now we are 3,500 products and counting every single day. And so
3,500 products?
Yes.
Wow.
550 brands. We have more than, I'd say, probably 35 million trees under plantation, whether it's stone fruit trees we've planted in the last 6-7 years because of the shortage in the world of peach, apricot, cherry, plum. And we're the biggest juice company in the world, biggest still beverage company in the world, and biggest sparkling beverage company in the world. So you have to continually innovate about the way you go to market, the way you innovate in new product development, the way you innovate in packaging. Another great innovation is freestyle. Freestyle is, in the past, legacy fountain equipment in points of sale in restaurants used to dispense 6 products. Our freestyle products now dispense 130 different beverages, choice, on an iPad screen. And so, when we think about the future of our business in the next 10 to 15 years, and usually, for me, that's a good horizon, 10 to 15 years, because you can actually get your hands around it. We think non-alcoholic beverage brands will actually be created in 3 different ways. One is continued in the ready-to-drink packaging. It can be, obviously, hopefully, 100% plant bottle. The second is at the point of sale outside of the home in a restaurant, ready to eat and drink point of sale. And there, freestyle is a great innovation, for example, in the 2.0, 3.0, 4.0 of those. So what used to be a 5-gallon bag-and-box, we have now used microdosing technology of medicine to create a cassette. The same 5-gallon syrup tank or bag-and-box, as we call it, is now a small cassette, condensed 150 times through microdosing technology. And imagine the supply chain savings. Imagine how green a supply chain that is. Instead of shipping 5-gallon tanks, you ship a little cassette. And then you can put 130 of them in a machine and have that choice. And then the third is at home. Technology at home to dispense beverages in pods.
Wow.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we've got time for just 2 more questions, so please.
I'll be quick. Hello, my name is Nathaniel. I'm in my 3rd year here at Fletcher and the Friedman School of Nutrition. Thank you so much for sharing these synergistic projects between the environment and your company. However, with the growing evidence that sugar-sweetened beverages have a negative effect on human health, how do you see the long-term future of your core set of products that are sugar-sweetened beverages And do you feel like your company has a responsibility in dealing with that? And if so, what does that look like?
Complete responsibility for dealing with that. That's why of the 3,500 beverages, 1,500 of them have no sugar. And it will just continue to evolve. And that's the way the future is. We just continue to evolve. Put natural, non-nutritive sweeteners into our beverages like Coca-Cola Life, and we're just at the beginning of that journey. But at the beginning of the journey has us at a clip of 1,500 out of 3,500. And who knows where that journey is going to take us all. The key is to stay ahead of consumer trends and make sure that you provide them with the right innovative new products. And that's how we see it. And whether it's enhanced waters, vitamins in water, all sorts of other functionality in beverages, and the key though is always great tasting beverages, because if you don't make a beverage that tastes good, it'll be consumed once.
Thank you. And you can wrap us up?
Yes, thank you. My name is Kilian Blum. I'm a student in Law and Diplomacy here at the Fletcher School. And my question regards, we can all appreciate that CSR has to make good business sense, and you gave plenty of examples of how that might work. But my question is, where do you draw the line? Because at some point you have to compromise on the profit in order to maximize the impact on the community. For example, if I understood correctly, then you transfer part of the risk of these boxes you set up to the entrepreneurs via microcredits, if I understand that correctly. So my question is, of where do you draw the line in a social initiative that makes money, but where is that enough, or where do you maximize the impact?
Yeah, well, the key is this. The benefit that we get out of most of these initiatives, not all, but most of them, much more than pay for all of those initiatives combined. So when we have achieved water neutrality, which is 500 billion liters, that has had a significant impact on our costs. When we have achieved 30% plant bottle hybrid blend, that has achieved significant reduction in our bottle costs. When you think about a business that connects with its consumers 2 billion times a day, and you can reduce the cost of one of these bottles by 1 cent, and it's good for the planet, that has a significant impact, which is a win-win. The key is to make sure that you can have more of those win-wins. Then the algebra is so clear. No one can challenge it.
But sorry, is that social, or where's the difference then between a social initiative and a purely business initiative when it in the end makes money, and it makes more money than if you wouldn't do it? Then what's the social element in it?
Social element is that you save all the carbon in your bottles. The social element is that you've actually used less water from the planet, and you're helping the planet to become more sustainable. And it's good. Unless it is both, it cannot be, no pun intended, sustained.
Thank you.
We just discussed a win-win, and I will tell you that it's been a wonderful win and win to have you here to talk about corporate social responsibility, the wonderful things that we're seeing from your corporation. I hope that serves as an example to many, many others. One of the great men of business, but who is at the center of the Golden Triangle.
Thanks.
Please join me in a round of applause for Muhtar Kent. Well done. Thank you. Well done. Thank you. Great. Thank you.